let's be honest for a second. When BTS dropped the tracklist for Arirang and fans saw Diplo's name listed as a writer and producer on not 1, not 2, but 5 tracks, a lot of people acted surprised. Social media blew up. ARMY was excited. The world was talking. But here's the thing that nobody is saying loudly enough, this was never a surprise. Not even close. Because Diplo and Jungkook didn't just meet for the first time in some fancy Los Angeles recording studio while working on Arirang. Their story goes back further than that. And once you understand how and why this relationship was built, you'll realize that Diplo choosing to work with Jungkook again, and praising him the way he did, is not a coincidence. It is the result of something real. Something that was established long before Arirang was even a concept. So let's start from the beginning. Because this story actually starts with a solo album, a young man stepping out on his own for the very first time, and a producer who had every reason in the world to say no. When Jungkook released his debut solo album Golden in November 2023, the pressure on him was enormous. He was the youngest member of the biggest boy band on the planet. Expectations from ARMY were sky high. The whole world was watching. And yet, somehow, he managed to pull together one of the most impressive lists of collaborators in recent K-pop history. Among those collaborators was Diplo, the Grammy-winning producer and DJ who was one of the most respected names in the global music industry. Diplo co-produced and co-wrote a track called Closer to You, which appeared on Golden alongside contributions from Ed Sheeran, Andrew Watt, and Jon Bellion, among others. Let that sink in for a moment. A man who has worked with Beyoncé, Madonna, Justin Bieber, Bad Bunny, and Dua Lipa decided to get into the studio and make music with Jungkook. And that wasn't some quick, impersonal feature where two people trade files over email and never actually meet. Diplo was involved in the creative process. He heard Jungkook's voice up close. He saw what Jungkook was capable of. And clearly, what he found left an impression. Now fast forward to February 2026. Diplo is standing at the Fanatics Super Bowl party in the United States when a TMZ reporter asks him about his work on Arirang. And what does he say? He doesn't just give a polite, generic answer about how it was a great experience or how honored he was to collaborate. No. He goes full in. He calls Arirang the craziest album he has ever worked on. He says it will shock the world. He says working with BTS is the biggest moment of his entire 30-year career. 30 years. This is a man who has worked with practically every major artist you can name. And he is saying this is his career peak. But then comes the moment that ARMY immediately clipped and shared across every platform. When asked specifically about the members, Diplo singled out Jungkook. And his words were simple, direct, and completely impossible to misinterpret. He said, Jungkook. No auto-tune. Perfect voice. 3 words. That's all it took for the internet to completely lose its mind. And honestly, that reaction makes total sense, because what Diplo said is not just a compliment. It is a professional stamp of approval from one of the most credible voices in modern music production. When a man who spends his life inside recording studios with the biggest artists on earth uses the phrase perfect voice, he is not being polite. He is not performing for the cameras. He is telling you exactly what he experienced when Jungkook stood in front of a microphone. But here's what makes this even more significant. Diplo did not say this about someone he just met. He said this about someone he had already worked with. Someone whose voice he had already heard, already recorded, already produced. He knew exactly what he was talking about because he had already been through the process with Jungkook once before. The praise he gave in that TMZ interview was not a discovery. It was a confirmation. A second witness statement, this time delivered in front of the entire world, about something Diplo had already concluded years earlier when they worked on Golden together. Think about what that means. When Diplo agreed to come back and work on Arirang, he wasn't taking a chance on an unknown quantity. He wasn't doing a favor for a famous K-pop group because it seemed like a smart business move. He already knew the answer. He had already been in the room with Jungkook. He had already heard what that voice can do without any processing, without any studio tricks, without anything artificial. And he came back. That choice, that decision to return and invest not just one track but 5 entire songs worth of creative energy into this album, says more about Jungkook as an artist than any chart number or streaming milestone ever could. Because you can buy your way onto charts, at least partially. But you cannot buy the respect of someone like Diplo. That has to be earned. And it's worth taking a moment here to really think about who Diplo is, because some people in the audience might not fully appreciate the weight of his endorsement. Diplo, whose real name is Thomas Wesley Pence, has been one of the dominant creative forces in global popular music for over 2 decades. He is a founding member of Major Lazer, the supergroup that produced some of the most recognizable dance and pop tracks of the 2010s. He co-produced Where Are You Now with Skrillex and Justin Bieber, a track that is widely considered one of the most influential pop songs of the past decade. He worked on Lean On, which became one of the most streamed songs in history at the time of its release. His credits include collaborations with Shakira, Usher, Ellie Goulding, MIA, and Nicki Minaj. Diplo has won Grammy Awards and produced countless songs that have defined generations. He is not just some DJ who got lucky. He is someone who has demonstrated, over and over again, an extraordinary ability to recognize talent and shape it into something that connects with audiences around the world. When someone with that level of experience and that level of discernment says that a particular artist's voice is perfect and requires no autotune, you have to listen. Because he knows what he is talking about better than almost anyone else alive. Now let's talk about what this actually means for Jungkook's legacy, because this is something that I think gets lost in the excitement of the moment. Jungkook has been receiving praise from major industry figures for years. Charlie Puth, who worked with him on the duet Left and Right, said in a behind-the-scenes interview that recording with Jungkook was an amazingly perfect vocal experience that genuinely moved him. Chris Martin of Coldplay, after hearing Jungkook's recording during one of their collaborative sessions, reportedly said, "Great, please tell JK that he's awesome." DJ Swivel, the Grammy-winning producer behind BTS's iconic track Euphoria, has spoken about how Jungkook delivered incredible vocal skills without any instruments or sound effects, and how that foundation was what made the song what it is. Even producers and musicians outside of Jungkook's direct collaborations have taken notice and commented publicly on the quality of his voice. But Diplo's praise carries a specific kind of weight that is different from all of these, and here is why. Most of the artists who have worked with Jungkook have done so once. They come in, they record together, and they leave impressed. Diplo came back. He chose to work with Jungkook a second time. And not just in a small way, not just as a guest feature on a single track. He came back as an executive producer, as a writer and producer on 5 full songs, on what he himself called the biggest project of his entire career. The decision to return is what separates Diplo's relationship with Jungkook from the others. Returning is a choice that requires conviction. It means you saw something the first time that made you say, "I want more of that. I want to build something bigger with this person. I believe in this person enough to put my name on the biggest album I have ever worked on." And speaking of putting his name on it, let's not overlook what Diplo did on social media when the Ararang tracklist dropped. He posted a photo on Instagram with Jungkook and RM and wrote, "Army, please be nice, I made 5 of these." That post tells you everything you need to know about the dynamic between Diplo and Jungkook. There is a warmth there. A genuine connection. This is not someone who showed up, did a job, got paid, and moved on. This is someone who is invested. Someone who is excited. Someone who is publicly positioning himself as part of the BTS family for this comeback, not just a hired hand who contributed a beat or two. There is also something deeper happening here when you look at the full picture of how Ararang was made. According to multiple reports, BTS spent months in Los Angeles in 2025 going through intensive songwriting and recording sessions, meeting with hundreds of producers to find the right people to shape this album. Out of all of those sessions, out of all of those potential collaborators, the final lineup included names like Ryan Tedder, Kevin Parker of Tame Impala, Mike Wilmated, Flume, El Guincho, and Peg Mafia. These are some of the most respected and sought-after names in music production across multiple genres. And Diplo was chosen to contribute more songs than any of them, 5 tracks, and serve as executive producer. That is not a coincidence. That is a relationship that was already established, already trusted, and already proven to work. What we are witnessing with Diplo and Jungkook is something that the music industry actually sees very rarely, which is a genuine creative bond that keeps producing results. In an industry full of transactional relationships where artists and producers collaborate once for commercial reasons and never speak again, the ongoing and deepening connection between these two stands out. It speaks to something that cannot be manufactured or marketed. It speaks to the fact that when Diplo heard Jungkook sing for the first time, he heard something rare. Something that made him want to be part of whatever comes next. And really, this is the core of the entire story. It wasn't a coincidence that Diplo worked on Golden. It wasn't a coincidence that he came back for Arirang. It wasn't a coincidence that he called Arirang his career peak while specifically pointing to Jungkook's voice as something extraordinary. Everything that has happened between these two artists is the result of a simple truth: when genuine talent meets genuine recognition, it creates a bond that transcends a single project. Jungkook earned Diplo's respect in the studio. And Diplo, one of the most accomplished people in the modern music industry, chose to honor that respect by coming back, putting in more work, and telling the world exactly what he found. So the next time someone acts surprised that Diplo is involved with BTS, or the next time someone questions whether the praise he gave Jungkook was genuine, remember this. Diplo has spent 30 years in recording studios with the greatest artists alive. He does not need to flatter anyone. He does not need BTS. He chose them. He chose Jungkook. Twice. And he told the world why. Not because he had to. But because what he heard was so undeniably good that not saying it would have been almost dishonest. Jungkook has a perfect voice. That is not a fan's opinion. That is a Grammy winner's professional conclusion, delivered to the world after working with him in the studio on 2 separate occasions, years apart. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how special this artist truly is, then I honestly don't know what will. That's all for today's video. If you're new here and you want to stay updated on everything BTS, Jungkook, and the Arirang era, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with a fellow army who needs to hear this story. I'll see you in the next one.